All right. Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, the only podcast that blends hip-hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces in the building, and this is 1-on-1 with Deuces, the place where I speak with creators, curators, and people that you should know. And right now, man, we got a whole legend in the building. We got the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. We got Keith Silverstein. Silverstein, how are you doing, brother?
I'm great, Deuces. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you know,
appreciate it.
No problem, man. So we right off the rip, we make sure that we give people their flowers for what they do and who they are. And I want to know, man, you got some iconic characters that you voice, and just being able to see you work and how passionate you are and connected you are with those characters, man. I want to let you know. I mean, you probably get it at the cons and everything, but we truly appreciate your work and everything that you bring to the world, man.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I do. I appreciate that. You know, 90% of the work that we do, it's just us. You know, we're in a booth. We've got a director there. I mean, there's a few people there, you know, might be a producer. There's an engineer. Actually, now during the pandemic, I'm doing it literally right over here in a booth. So I am by myself. Right. But even pre-pandemic times, so it's always nice to hear a reaction, because you do it and then it comes out months later. Are people going to like it? Who knows? You're moved on. You're doing other stuff. Right. It's really nice when people come up to you and say, hey, I like this. I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. It's an extra, like icing on the cake.
Yeah. And then what's really dope is that when we get this, like, you know, like yourself, like you get to be a part of fandoms that you either grew up on or that you love and everything. And then so it's like, oh man, I watched this and now I'm a part of this. And now like that got to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I'm a true geek in that sense. So when I get to work on a franchise, you know, if it's something at Marvel or, you know, Star Wars or, you know, anything that for me, you know, that reminds me of my childhood, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, you know, I remember when the Sega Genesis came out, it came with that Sonic game, and it was well before there were voices in games. Right. But it did have that intro where you heard the Sega, and I was like, what? I mean, there was barely voices in games, I should say, at that point. Yeah. But I remember Sonic came with it. That was the first thing I played. So to voice Vector the Crocodile years later is like, are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy. It's insane.
All right. And so one of the questions I always ask people, what was the one game that you did spend out? Like, was Sonic the first game you remember spending hours on and playing?
I loved Sonic, but I don't know if that was an hours. I mean, maybe hours, but not hours and hours kind of game. Listen, first off, let me say I've been playing video games since the beginning. So I was playing Pong and I was playing pinball in the arcades and such. I remember Space Invaders and Star Castle and Battlezone. I remember when Donkey Kong showed up in the arcade and you were like, what's this? I remember when Dragon's Lair and people were looking at it. Nobody wanted to put a quarter. Like, I don't understand this game. I don't know what it does. It's a cartoon. Why do you play it? Right. So I remember all that. So I played everything. One of the home system games I remember spending a colossal amount of time on was the original Phantasy Star, which was on the Sega, like 16-bit something or other, right? And I mean, I remember drawing out maps for the dungeons. I mean, I spent way too much time on that game. I loved that game. But until about maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I just, between being a dad and between having a lot of work, I still play, but I don't play games nearly as much. So I think I had a really good gaming career in my youth. And I think when I retire one day, I'm going to have an incredible gaming career, because I'm just going to plug it into my brain, because that's what we're going to do then. And, you know, I'm going to geek out. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to play Sonic like, right?
You know, that's why I don't know if you, I know because you're so busy. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that episode of Black Mirror with Anthony Mackie, and I forgot the other brother's name, but it was that they kind of,
the fighting game.
Yeah, fighting.
Right. And then it turned into a relationship. It turned into a whole different thing.
You know, Black Mirror, they're going to
cool.
They're going to always have a twist, but that concept of being able to just immerse yourself in a video game, that's an amazing concept. One of the things that you said, though, that makes me also remember, like, kids nowadays, if they get to a level that they can't beat, they can just go to YouTube, find somebody that beat it. We literally have to write stuff out, remember stuff, or you had to get some money to buy the book. You had to buy the Nintendo book, the guy.
You had to buy the book, and it's so true, because now it's easy. Yeah. And I do it too because I don't have time now. So if I can't get past something, I'm like immediately on my phone, like, oh, okay. hold on, let me just watch how he does it. Got it. And that works for everything except for Cuphead, because Cuphead is too hard for a normal human to solve. I have given up on Cuphead. Sorry. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Can't solve it. My kids, every time I do pick it up every 3 months, like, I'm going to pass that one level today. My kids gather around and they're always disappointed.
But see, that's your gamer pride. Growing up, we had gamer pride because one, we would beat a game to completion because we didn't have multiple games. We had that one game. We're like, all right, but I'm gonna beat the heck out this game every which way, you know. And so we had that gamer pride. So now the reason why you keep going back to it is like you can. There's millions of games that you can play, but that one game is going to be a nagging like, oh, I gotta get it. I gotta get it.
I know. That's why every few months I get the courage up and I'm like, you know what? Who knows? Maybe I'll just be lucky. I know I'm not gonna, like, I have like 4 more bosses to beat, but if I can pass one, that'll get me by like another 6 months. Like, yes, that's it. And you were asking about the games I spent a lot of time with. Reminded, do you remember Space Ace?
Yes.
Okay. So Space Ace was the game when that came out. It was like Dragon's Lair. So it was like a cartoon. It was the Don Bluth Studios. It was beautifully animated. And when that came out, that was the game in the arcade that my buddy Jason and I were just pros at. And when it was early on in that game's life, we would go to the arcade after school. And when we got there, people would like gather around. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember arcades like that.
Yeah. I'm a military brat. So we was around so many arcades. Like I used to play Tekken all the time. But I think it's called A-Force. It was, you know, the airplane fighting game where you get the power ups and now like you're like I forgot the name of it, but like I used to play all those games, man.
Yeah, so people would gather around because we could solve it. And the cool thing about Space Ace that I don't think Dragon's Lair had, I'm not sure, is that every single time you had the option to energize and turn into Space Ace instead of being a little Dexter young kid, there was always a second option in the game. So you could always stay little and like hide somewhere else or do something else, and the whole level you'd solve it a different way.
Right.
And so I would have like the crowd. I go bigger, small, and they'd go small, and you'd go cool, and you'd go that way. So they got to like choose their own adventure, and I was like, I got this. Big, you know.
That, you know, being in arcades back in the time, it used to be, it was such a thing. Because like I remember when Street Fighter first hit the arcade, like when it first came. And I just, you know, even just like the intro, you see the guys and then you see the punch, and then, you know, then it's like, it's always, oh, this person he's the man. He's running it on the arcade. So now everybody's trying to beat this one person.
Right.
But then like you have the game where it's like a solo game and like everybody's playing it, but you got that one person like, oh man, he's here. He's about to kill this game. So now everybody crowding around watching you.
Exactly.
It used to be amazing, man. Those times used to be so good.
Yeah, you know, I mean, they still do it now, but now you just, you just hit record on your system and then you post it up on Twitter or whatever, and the whole world can see it. Yeah. Or you just play live, right? You stream live. But it used to be nice to walk into an arcade. That was the only way you got that satisfaction of a crowd. Like, oh, that's the guy. That's the guy who came by yesterday. He could solve it any different way.
Right.
You got to see this.
Right.
One quarter. Watch him.
Right. But that was the thing. If you could do it in one quarter, oh man, like you just think about those times. So I love getting into people's origin stories, you know, and just doing my research, looking into you. So you tell this story about your uncle. You know, he was putting together, I think it was either a show or a movie, but he needed some voices. You hit him up on and left some voices on his voicemail, and he loved it, and then took it to the Real Pro Studio. First question: do you remember the voices that you did on that voicemail?
I have no idea what the voices were, but they weren't super cartoony. He had my uncle Robert Perrine. He had done this artwork, like these busts from like here up of all these different tribes of people, just imaginary people. They look like they were made of, wood or rock or, stone or, different things depending on which tribe they were from. They're really, really cool artwork. I have some of the pieces now hanging, some of his original artwork hanging in my house and in my game room, actually. And he wanted some of the poetry read in their voices. So they weren't supposed to be cartoony, but they were just supposed to be different ages or wise. So, I would put on my slightly older, wiser voice, but this was 20 some years ago.
Right.
So in my head, I was, this wise old man. But I probably was like, I'm a wise old, I have no idea what I sound like then, because you hear your old stuff and you're like, I thought I was scarier than that. I sound like I'm 12.
It would have been amazing if you would have been able to preserve that voice, man.
Well, I have the voices I did because I have an old VHS copy. It was for a special that he did, and then when he exhibited his artwork at an art studio, or at an art house, they would play the video in addition to it. So it was in there, and I have it. I just would have to break out a VHS player from the basement, and I mean, I could see it. So I mean, I technically have the voices that he used. Man, so one day,
well, I said you got to find some way to bring it up, because here's the thing about this new digital world, and one of the things I love, people love to see like the start of it, and I'm pretty sure your fan base, your supporters would love to just be able to see that footage, like wow, like or whatever. Like you definitely should find a way to get that out there, man, because I think that'd be really dope.
I'll tell you one, if anybody's out there that wants to see something like really early, because what I consider to be like my first real like animated gig was a biggie. I mean, it was just a really, really amazing thing. And I was so lucky to have the opportunity. I worked for Warner Brothers, but more specifically for Chuck Jones on his what ended up being his final project. It was something called Thomas Timberwolf. And it was an internet cartoon based on characters that he had created, way back. I don't know, back when he was creating Bugs Bunny and everybody.
Okay.
And it was just an amazing thing to work on. It's very simple animation, but it's online. So if you guys type in Thomas Timberwolf, you can at least watch a few cartoons. We did maybe 12. I think we did more than aired. We probably did like 20. And I think there are 12 or 13 of them that are floating around online somewhere. So
13 shorts that I'm looking at. Who voice did you do?
I played a character named Dash Snake. I played Igor Beaver. I played who else did I do? Oh, I played Loopy T. Wolf, who's his little like nephew. I know I did a couple other. I think I did a termite at one point. Okay. But it was 3 or 4 different like original characters, and Joe Alasky played the title character on that, and he's someone I looked up to, and it was amazing to work with him. Nancy Cartwright played a regular recurring character on that.
Some heavy hitters on here, man.
And me, who was like literally just getting started, and my buddy Charlie Puzo, my good friend, was working on that show, and he got me an audition, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I just just started doing a whole bunch of voices, and they were like, "We think we can use you."
Well, I mean, that's really dope, because you know what? It's funny because like your story, what's amazing about your story is it's a lot of you just speaking up. Because like, when you talk about how you got the role in Naruto, like you was just like, you heard somebody talking about anime, you're like, hey, I could do voices, I do anime. And then come to find out there's somebody that's tied to it, like, hey, I want to cast you. Let's get you on here. So it was like your stories has been dope, because it's literally just you being you, speaking out sometimes like, oh yeah, I do this, and just showcasing your work, and people are like, oh wait, I like that. Let's bring Keith on.
Yeah, and that story you're talking about, I didn't even know that was happening. That was actually it's not how I got onto Naruto, but it is how I got in with a studio called Bang Zoom Studios, Bang Zoom Entertainment, and there was a gentleman who's become a good friend, Kirk Thornton, that I was working with. I was working with a lot of people. It's funny because I didn't know the community, the dubbing community at that point. I was very new to it. So there were about 6 or 7 of us there, actors there. And I bet you I know all the others now, but I just don't know who they were, because my mind,
right.
I just know Kirk because I know he was the one there. And during a break, when we were working on this, just dubbing a cartoon from Canada called, what was it called? Edgar and Ellen, based on a children's book series. I think that's what it was called. I overheard Kirk and a group of people talking about anime. Now, in my head, I didn't think for a second they were talking about it because they work on it and they work in anime. And Kirk is an established director and actor who's done tons of anime. I had no idea. I just was like, anime? You guys are speaking my language.
Right.
And so I went into this whole thing where I was like, yeah, they have these, the young characters who are all, whoa, we got to do this. And then there's always an older character who explains everything. So I went into all these tropes from anime. I'm going to fight you. Damn you. Like I'm doing this little thing, like laughing. And meanwhile, Kirk's like, okay. So when we were done, he was like, here's my number. Please get me your demo. I was like, what, huh? What? Like I was, he's like, yeah. So very cool. And thanks again, Kirk, because he got me started over there, and that was a big boost to the career.
What I'm always impressed by, because like even just now, what you just did, like I got a chance to talk to Carl Jones, you know, one of the animators for the Boondocks, and he was telling me a story about Regina Hall on how not Regina Hall, Regina King.
Regina King, okay.
Regina King, and how in season 2 of the Boondocks, it wasn't takes. She was doing Huey and Riley at the exact same time. Right. And so I started seeing that as the more and more, you know, people started interviewing, like I talked to Phil Lamar, Deborah Wilson, now you, and it's like, wow, like you guys, the way that you guys can cut one off and turn one on and cut one off and turn one on, that is amazing. Yeah. And at what point did you get to that point where you realized that you can do that?
Well, you know, it depends on the character. It depends on the show, because there's a million things that can, you know, throw you off for that. If your characters are too close vocally, it's a little harder to do. Okay. If they're really far, I don't know if that makes sense, but so I worked on a show, an anime called Glitter Force, for example, and it's on Netflix. And I played 3 of the villains, and they would banter back and forth. Right. But the 3 of them, the voices were different enough where the placement was in my voice. So the wolf, Ulrich, he was way down here, but he was very raspy and evil in that way. And then there was Brute, who was a troll, an ogre, excuse me. And he wasn't very smart. So he is a slightly different placement. He's got a little bit of a lisp, and he also talks differently, right? So you got him. And then there was, what was the other one? Rascal, who was like a jester. And well, Rascal was the one who was more evil like this, and he was always plotting and up to something. So I didn't have a problem going back and forth. That's easy for you to say. You know what I mean? So those guys were easy for me, but sometimes like a slightly different thing, you're like, it's not far enough. I need to jump far in order to distinguish them. Does that make some sense?
No, it makes 100% sense. It makes 100% sense. And I love seeing you guys work, because to the untrained person who doesn't really know much about voice animation, they think it's just this. All right, no. But I love how you guys act, you guys get into it. And that's why like I often look for behind the scenes stuff, because I want to see how you guys, what you guys create the character. Like, you know, it's funny because like when you did your old person, I don't think you even noticed it. You hunched your back and you went down.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah. Right? Yeah, like, you're right. I don't notice it.
Right.
I don't notice it a lot.
That's so dope to me, because it's like, you know, it shows the art that is into it. And, you know, and I think that that's the impressive part of voice acting, is that there's so much into it. You know, I started doing this. I grew up with hip hop dreams. I wanted to be a rapper and everything. And I put out some albums and everything, and I'm fairly good at it. But then I also I love podcasting. I love talking about things that I'm passionate about. Yeah. So then I started doing this, and it started picking up traction. And it's funny because like when I'm talking to people, I'm like, dang, I would have never thought I'd be this. People on the outside, like, no, we've been seeing this in you. Me, I'm like, it's weird, because I'm like, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to be the biggest rapper. So it's like, now that I'm being more successful here, like it's crazy how you see that craft. So then I was like, I'm going to be a student of the game. I started watching other people. I started learning, you know, the proper way to have an interview, the proper way to make sure that I do this professionally. And now it's something that I'm very passionate about and I'm very good at. But again, when you think about it, when I first got into podcasting, I was like, okay, well, just sit in front of a mic and talk, you know, and then you start realizing like, oh no, there's actually an art form to having a great conversation. So it's like, I respect all of that, you know, with that craft. And I love when I see somebody passionate about the things that they do. And so, yeah, you know, I love that fact about you. Now, one of the things that I also love to ask, it's a really great question. You've voiced over 100 characters, I would say by now. If you had to do a buddy cop movie with 2 of the characters that you voiced, what 2 characters would you choose for your buddy cop movie?
Well, they got to be different, right? That's the whole point, right? You have a buddy cop movie, you don't get 2 guys that are like the same. They got to be from 2 different worlds, right? Is the deal. I think probably I would use Hisoka from HunterxHunter. Who's Well, it looks like that poor man's arms have turned to flower petals. So he lives here, right? So you'd have him who's just, just this crazy sexual fighting being, very mysterious. You're always like, I don't know about you, Hisoka. Like, you're always like, I don't know. That's who he is. Right. And I would do a straight shooter who likes to get the job done and believes in working hard. And that would be Torbjörn, ready to work from Overwatch. And I think the two of those would be like a perfect buddy cop. I mean, that would be it.
That would be an amazing one. Because I always ask that because it's like, you have to put that thought into it. You're like, okay, wait a minute. Because once you start thinking about movies, you got to have the straight edge person. And you got to have the person that's like, all right, they kind of walk the line of good and messed up. Like, oh, that's
right. Totally. So I think those two would be great. And then Torbjörn could be like, I'm getting too old for this. You know what I mean? He could be doing his thing. It'd be perfect.
Get his Danny Glover on. And
Let's get this made. Let's do it.
Did I forget the clacker out there? I'm just gonna clap.
You have brought it to.
I know, I'm just gonna clap.
I'm mad because I was definitely expecting you to get it.
I mean, I could quickly go grab it.
Just clap. 1, 2, 3.
All right, man. Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, the only podcast that blend hip-hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces in the building. With me, I got my man Liv.
What up? It's Liberace. It's the Puerto Rican Santa. The spiccato playing, beat making, motherfucking legendary ass Puerto Rican. Sofrito Papi, and we back.
As always, I got my man Bacardi in the building.
Randolph today.
Konnichiwa, bitches. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. I hate all of this. I hate all of it.
What's good, everybody? How we doing today?
And we got Didge in the building.
What is happening, people? What's happening, people? What is happening, people? What is happening, people?
He's out the booth.
But it's like I said, we are expanding. We are doing more. So they say make sure you go to youtube.com/Geekset. Follow us on all social media at Geekset Podcast on every social media. And rating reviews in, man. We are rating reviewers on Facebook, rating reviewers on Apple iTunes, rating reviewers on Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform you're looking at. Give us some ratings, let us know. And then again, this is the only podcast that blend hip hop culture and geek culture together. We are out.
Peace.
So speaking of Hunter, so amazing villain. Like he's up there to me with Frieza because of the fact of like he's bad but like he's very powerful. Like you be like, man, if he could just walk the straight edge, he'll be a good ally. Like it's just so much to him and everything like that. How did that role come about? Was that just a straight audition?
It was an audition. I got an email. That was Bang Zoom Entertainment that was producing that and recording. And they sent me the character. I saw the image of him. There was a brief description. I remember mentally, like immediately wanting to go kind of high pitched with him. And then it said very clearly in the description, that he's not a high pitched character. So I was like, okay, cool. Right. But I like that. Like, tell me that, because I would have gone the wrong way right off the bat. So once I realized, like, no, he's mid to low, and where he is, I was like, well, I mean, just from watching a little bit online and just from that description of him, I mean, the thing with him and his voice, this is the way I break him down. Okay, this is a character. If you don't know this character, folks, in HunterxHunter, Hisoka, he loves a good fight more than anything. He actually sexualizes a good fight. I mean, literally, he gets off on a good fight. I don't know how it is. I'm saying it clean but straightforward so you guys understand what I'm talking about. There's a lot of misconceptions about the character because in the series, the most promising fighters are children. And so people get it twisted and people are like, oh, he's a pedophile and he's this. There's nothing to say that he's a pedophile. He does enjoy a good fight and he doesn't care how old you are to fight you if you're qualified. So I placed his voice in kind of a perpetual orgasm, if I'm being totally honest.
That makes sense.
So he's always in this zone of pleasure. I mean, he can come down from it. It's not like every second is a is an orgasm, but he's riding that wave, almost constantly. And that's kind of where I placed his voice, and that's what they liked. So they ended up casting me, and the rest is history, because he's one of the most fun, memorable for me characters that I've had the chance to play. I mean, I look back and go, man, thank God I got that one. Like, what a great, I love him.
Yeah. And like I said, even like you said, even though you said people kind of have misconceptions of him, he is one of he is a loved villain. Like, again, he's up there in the top villains because it's like you said, he had so much of an impact, and that character is such an interesting character, because I think a lot of people do kind of see that. He does overly sexualized fight. So you're like, man, what is wrong with dude? Like, why is he like, he's crazy?
Yeah. And I did that recording. I would, I don't get the scripts ahead of time. So I would show up and be reading the script as we're going along. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, what am I doing right here? What is he doing? Is that what I think? Because there's actually a scene where he climaxes in the fight. Yeah. I mean, they don't show anything, folks. So I know your mind just went reeling, like, you're like, oh my God. I'm like, no. Clothes are on. It's a fight. So clothes are on. Everything's normal until he makes a noise. And you're like, did he just? So so we had fun with that, because the director, Tony Oliver, we did one take of it, and I just said, like, it's one of the things, if you're going to do it, you just do it. You just go for it. Like, what's the point of me doing it 25 times and like, give me more or less, do this. So I just gave it my best shot. And then we saw that it timed out, and I said, Tony, do you want me to do a safety of that? Meaning, like, one more just in case, maybe it's better, maybe it's, whatever. He was like, nope. He didn't want to hear another one from me. He was like, it's good. We are moving on.
So what's really dope to hear about that. So as I started doing this, so I kind of caught the acting bug, because I did a Herzing University commercial, right? And I was like, cool. Oh, this is dope. Like, so I wanted to try this. So I started like auditioning for things and stuff like that. And because this is literally like within the past 2 years. So I went to this one audition, and it kind of goes in what you were saying about that. I said, you know what? These people, so it was like background. This was just background work. It said, so the official title of the role was background dancer, right? Auditioning background dancer. Now I can't dance a lick. Like, I mean, I can move, but I can't do like ballroom dancing and stuff like that. So as I'm driving to the audition and everything, I'm like, all right, you know what? These people don't know me. I don't know them. So I was like, if they ask me to dance, I am going to go all out. And I said, worst case scenario, they're going to be like, don't do that ever again. Best case scenario, they're like, hey, that was pretty funny. We actually need something in the role. Let's do that. And so that's kind of been my driving factor and everything. So I did get this opportunity to do a voiceover role on this with this one director. And when he gave me the role, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go balls to the walls with it. And then when I submitted to him, I'm like, man, did I go over? And he loved it. And I was like, oh, so I was like, you know what? That is, as I take this journey, that is my mantra. I said, you know, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to go all out, whatever that character is. So I connect to you hearing you say that, because it's kind of like with me not having no necessarily training, no mix or anything, and trying to dive into this, like, oh, you know, the best of the best. He takes that same route. He takes that same, I am going to give it my all. Why not? And so that's really dope. And just like I said, you can hear it in your character. Again, you can hear it in his whole.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so, you know, it's really important to do that, because it's easier for a director to pull you back, to say you went too far, bring that back. And it's usually easier for an actor to pull it back. If you're an inexperienced actor, you're just getting started, and you know, they're telling you to be, you know, big and loud, you might have a problem with that, because you haven't gotten to that point where you can really let yourself go. Right. So that's a harder direction to be, like bigger, louder, stronger, whatever that is. So you got to go for it. Like if the director says, hey, give me a gorilla sound, and you're like, that's the worst, because you can't even direct that. You didn't do it. You're embarrassed, and you're not doing it, and the director needs you to do something. So if you go and they go, nah, try, bring it closer to your chest. There you go. Now use that. And do you know what I'm saying? Like you can work with that. But if you're too nervous to do the sound, what's the director supposed to say other than, okay, next? Like you didn't even try, man. So it's far better to just go for it, even if you all end up laughing, it'll end up making you less nervous afterwards. I mean, unless the director's an asshole, you'll laugh and they'll go cool, and he or she will be cool, and you'll move on. But you got to give something. You got to give something to work with.
So where do you land on with the HunterxHunter debate?
Is that really a debate?
It's not well, because some people say I say it, I don't care how I say it, and some people get really mad that people say the X.
Well, I don't get mad about it, but here's the thing. This is my argument, and I don't have inside information, to be honest. And you think like they told me it's definitely, they call it, on like Toonami and stuff, they would say Hunter on the promos. Right. So I know that was the intention for the current version,
right?
At least in English. Now, every single title of an episode in Hunter has the X's in there, and it doesn't really make sense to say the X's in the title. So when you read the titles, if you put the X's in, it sounds really weird. It's very, very strange. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe they're meant to be said. I think that's kind of part of the theme of the style of the font and how it's supposed to look. And I don't know where they came up with the X's. I just don't really think they're supposed to be pronounced. But it doesn't piss me off if I'm not like, hey, don't you say that X. I worked on that show. I'm gonna sick Hisoka on you. Yeah, no, I don't care.
So speaking of going all out in actual like auditions and everything,
yeah.
So do you have any funny auditioning stories? Like one that you was like, man, this was hilarious, or
I don't know. Those things seem to. I've heard great ones from other people. I'm trying to think if there was like it's just something that was really embarrassing. I early on in my career, I know I had some bad auditions where I just felt I didn't bring it. Mm-hmm. And even now, if I feel like I didn't quite, we send everything from home now, almost 100% right now. And like I said, maybe that'll change if we get COVID under control. But you don't even like, if I give something my 100% and I'm at home and I end up going like, this is crap. Like I'm not doing this. I'm glad I spent 25 minutes on it, because maybe the next time it comes by, that 25 minutes of practice plus, another month of just doing other stuff will get me to the point where now I can start where I left off and be better. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like it's wasted time, but I won't send it if I'm like, that's embarrassing. Like that's right. I can't, I'm just not the right guy for that role. But when you show up, I guess there are sometimes here, I'll tell you, when I was coming up, a lot of the auditions I got, because I was completely unknown, the auditions I got were when they wanted someone ethnic. So when they wanted somebody Black, when they wanted somebody, I'm Native American also, so they want somebody Native American, but this wasn't in the days where they were just trying to actually match it and cast appropriately, cast correctly. Right. They were like, we want you to sound like, a Native American from this era. And I'm like, well, shit, I didn't do that. That wasn't like my thing. So I got to some auditions where I didn't know what I was going to do till I got there. And then they expected me to be able to do something that I wasn't great at. And it was like, that's the only reason I got here, man. And now I don't I am trying my best to, and it's like, that's not my thing. I'm doing like a neck chalk. I'm doing Apache Chief from, Super Friends the best I can. I'm like, oh, I don't, So I had somewhere I kind of walked out of like going like, oh man, I don't know. And of course didn't book them. Yeah. But that, those just bummed me out, and then I had to shake them off. They weren't so much funny for me. Right.
That's not necessarily funny. That's more so
they might have been funny for the director though.
So then vice versa. So you talk about like the work that you put into building these characters, trying to figure out how they sound. What was the toughest character that you had to really research or try to get into? Like, what was the toughest character that you had to portray?
I think it was a mental toughness. And I think that was a character named Johann Lieber from a series called Monster, which is a 71 episode thriller anime. And he is like a sociopath. He's just a real scary dude, but not in the overtly scary way, in the kind of disconnected. He sounds a little disconnected. He's always pulling the strings. Like everything he does is planned. And he just lives in a very, very, very dark place. He's a killer, but he usually tricks people around him into doing the killing for him.
Okay.
And it's a very cool. So if you like series like, I don't know, I don't want to, it's not really like Death Note, but it's got that same darkness to it. It's a very different series. Yeah. It doesn't have the supernatural element to it, but it's got that darkness. And it's a very cool anime. But when I'm working in between takes, I like to be me. Okay. I don't have a problem going back to me and making a joke here and there and laughing and then going to the next line. I think I'm comfortable that way. And this character, I felt like I was cheating when I would do that, because I could provide the voice even if I made a joke, but I didn't feel like I was providing the character. I felt like I was cheating eventually the audience if I didn't. So I told the director, it was Patrick Seitz, incredible director and actor, or somebody I really look up to. I told him, like, hey, I don't want you to think I'm in a bad mood all of a sudden or I'm mad at you or anything, but I'm not going to joke around anymore because I just feel like I'm trying to keep these dark thoughts in my head. And I can't keep rising up and going, ha, 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 and then sinking back down mentally to play this character authentically. And maybe I could have faked it and nobody would have noticed, but I would have noticed. And it was bothering me. So very quickly, I nipped that in the bud and said, nah.
Yeah. That's kind of like method acting. Like you hear about that with some of those, with like, how Heath Ledger did Joker and, and stuff like that. Like you hear those people who, I need to get into this character so that way I can give that best performance. So I don't, like I can understand how that can be the most mentally straining one, because like I said, it's funny because as I was doing the research for this and I'm watching, some of your interviews and everything like that, my fiance, she's watching and she said, man, he seemed like a really cool person to be around. So it's like,
that's cool.
Like that's your,
tell her I say hi.
Yeah. That's your aura. So it's like, if you have to play a character like that, it's like, yeah, I need to make sure that I stay in this just for this, 13 episodes or whatever the case may be with that. Yeah. So that understands. So another thing that I found out about you is like you are a vinyl head, a vinyl junkie. So I know that with that, working on JoJo had to be amazing for you. Just because with all the puns, the music and everything, and you got to be speedwagging, like that had to be an amazing time.
It was really fun working on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This was a series that I had never seen up to that point. But I had heard about, it's a cult classic. And I knew there were so many people that were just fans of this. So to work on it and having not seen it, especially, I had to have a lot of trust in the direction, because have you seen it yourself?
Listen, my daughter and my son loves JoJo. Okay. So listen, I've been doing these interviews for quite some time. Not so quite some, for about a year. And the ones that they get excited about, as soon as they find out that I'm speaking with somebody from JoJo, they were like, "What?" Yeah. So when I told them, I'm like, "Hey," like, and because I know that, I like to tell them that. So now, I'll be like, when it's happening, I'm like, so I'm going to be interviewing the voice actor. Speed, and I know the character, but I like to play when I'm like Speedwagon, and I was like, what? They get excited.
That's cool. It was the whole show is very over the top. I mean, the whole thing is, and so I would do a scene, and then I would be like, please tell me if I just went way too far. So I was like, people are either going to love this or they're going to hate this, because it's very hyper reality, if that makes sense. There's some intense like melodrama, and the whole thing is just big. Yeah. And it's the opposite of when they say we want it cinematic and we want it natural. This is the opposite of that. Yeah. So it was tough to be comfortable in that zone, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And it wasn't until I watched the first 2 seasons. I started watching it on Toonami and like kind of live streaming on Twitter. Or live tweeting, on Twitter with everybody, that I kind of got it. And I'm like, oh, it's cool to like, it's over the top with some parts we kind of laugh at, but we overall enjoy the story and the characters and where it's taking us. But we all kind of, so once I understood that was kind of part of the joy of it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But it's like the worst anime ever to show somebody who's never seen anime that you want them to watch anime.
It's not a gateway anime. It's definitely not a gateway anime.
It's not. There's violence and there's, you know, weird stuff. I mean, really weird stuff where you have to explain like, well, this is what. No, give them like my mom watched an episode because it was on and she wanted to support me, and I'm like, you don't have to watch that. And she's like, that was really weird. And I'm like, that's not the one. Like I tell her which ones to watch. I'm like, don't watch that. That's too weird for you. You're not gonna like it. Just don't pretend you're happy that you saw it. I know you better than that.
Well, it's funny because like I got a chance to interview Amari Williams, so he does Ho-Ho and JoJo, and he was saying, he was like, yeah, man, it was kind of weird because his character, you know, he has that moment with the little girl and everything. You know, I was like, yeah, it's like the show, it gets weird, but it's like, it's one of those shows that when you watch it in totality and everything, you're like, okay, this is actually a really amazing anime and everything. And it's one of, and like I said, my daughter loves it. You know, she wanted me to, you know, she got the simple question. She was like, well, ask him, did he enjoy it? And I was like, all right, I'll ask him, did he enjoy being Speedway?
I did. I very much did. And I've grown to love Speedwagon too, because the fan base is, you know, they're so accepting and they're so wonderful, and they're always showing their support for Speedwagon. So the JoJo fans are pretty great. They're pretty great.
So what's the latest vinyl that you picked up?
Well, I just got a bunch of 45s, a bunch of 7-inch records from Australia. I ordered online. This is old stuff, you know. It's all here's what I collect, by the way. I'm a huge Prince fan, period. I collect Prince and Prince related vinyl only. So I don't deal with CDs. I mean, all that stuff's great. I have so much money and I have so much space, and I'm lucky my wife puts up with the vinyl. Yeah. So I'm not adding like posters and stand-ups, and you know, I'm like, I just am getting the vinyl. So anybody related. So that means, you know, obviously Sheila E. and The Time, Vanity, Apollonia, like all the obvious stuff. You know, I'll pick up, you know, if Mariah Carey covers Beautiful Ones, I got to pick up that vinyl too. You know, anybody that picks stuff, D'Angelo does, She's Always in My Hair. I'm like, I got to get that if it's on vinyl. If it's on vinyl, I have to get that. So, so everything, it's like that. So I got a bunch of different things that are all 45s, and the guy told me they were mint, which is always a lie because they're never mint.
Right.
They're never perfect. And they showed up today, and sure enough, they are about as mint as you can get. I mean, they're pretty damn close.
Nice.
I know. So listen, I order stuff all the time, and I have to like contact them back like, dude, you told me these were like near mint, and there's writing on it. It says Sally on it. It says the BPM. Somebody wrote the BPM. I specifically said, I'm a collector. Don't send, you know, right. This was good stuff. But I Welcome to America, which is Prince's latest album, I just picked up like a few different copies because I had to get it on clear vinyl and regular vinyl and gold vinyl and, you know, the whole thing. Yeah. Which is his first like completely unique release since his passing, meaning this was an album that he had slated for, I don't know, 2014, 15, somewhere like this, 2010, somewhere in there. And then he put it in the vault and just was like, I'm gonna do something else. Yeah. So they didn't like piece together like, here's a song, these songs look like they should go together, let's make an album. They said, here's his album.
Yeah, I remember that.
Let's put that out. And that just came out. This is just, you know, 3 weeks ago it came out.
Yeah, I remember the hype around that, because that's one of the things that, like, with music, I don't like, what's it called? I can't think of the word right now, but the album, after somebody passes, when they put the album, then they start putting artists together that you're like, well, okay, all right, Prince would not be working with Moneybagg Yo or whatever. Like they start bringing in like the most random collabs that you're like, that is not an organic collab. I don't want this. No, I don't want this. And I hate when they do that with artists. So with that one, I remember the hype around it, because they was like, oh, wait, this is not something put together. This is not another producer coming in like, okay, I'm gonna make this new beat. This is what Prince did. He just put it in a vault. And I was in that, and to me, that was dope, because I was like, that's how it should be. Like, I get it that people love an artist, but making an artist collab with today's artist after, and you know, has passed away 10, 20 years ago, or even last year, it's just like, that's not like, no, let's give, you know, that's not doing the fans justice. You know,
they won't probably have to do much of that with Prince. He has so much in his vault. That for the rest of my life, I'm going to get newly released music, you know, as Prince had recorded it. You know, he might have changed it if he had lived before he released it. he might have changed something, but I'm saying this is how he recorded it in 84 or 86 or 90 or whatever. And we'll get those. And a lot of that stuff's floating around on the internet. I mean, I buy all this stuff, trust me, but I have plenty of like bootleg audio files of all kinds of tracks that people snuck out of the studios over the last, 30 years. And you were talking about collaborations. I have one, you might, because this is all about hip hop too, right?
Yeah.
So I have a version. I mean, I'm not the only one that has this, but it exists, of Bat Dance. Do you remember Prince's Bat Dance when Batman came out? Okay. So the studio, because Prince would have never done this, especially at that era, I don't think, the studio must have said, hey, we want to do a rap on here. And we're going to get somebody to do a rap on this. And he must have said, do what you want, but it doesn't get released unless I approve it. And then he didn't approve it because it never came out. But I have a copy, and it's terrible, of Big Daddy Kane rapping on Bat Dance. Yes.
I don't think I even knew about that.
Yeah, he raps a lot in it, and that's no disrespect to Big Daddy Kane, by the way. Let me be clear to my old school hip hop fans out there. That's no disrespect to him. It just was one of those things. I just know Prince, and I'm like, at that time, that's not what he would have done with that song. Like, he was not about rap at that point. He came around. Oh yeah. But at that point, that was like Black Album-ish time, and he was not about rap at that point. I'm telling you.
That's it's funny because of that is probably one like up there collector's item of being able to have, because you said you got the vinyl of that, right?
No. This is not something that was ever officially released. This is, trust me, any big artist, somehow these things so that was done by the studio probably. So somebody at the studio had a demo cassette of this that Prince listened to, and there are probably 10 of those cassettes out there. One of them floated around. Somebody made an MP3 out of it. So I don't own any of that specific. I have some cool official stuff. Yeah. But this is just the stuff that's unofficially floating around. Okay. And who knows, maybe the Prince estate will one day release it. It's not good, but for historic purposes, maybe some people want to own that and go, oh, I'm glad that didn't happen, but here's what it would have sounded like, right?
Yeah. So is there any characters that you passed on that you can talk about that you was like, man, I could have been that person?
That's interesting. I don't know what you heard about me. I don't pass on a lot of characters.
So you saying you're the Samuel L. Jackson of voice work?
Well, that wouldn't be a bad thing to do. That would be a good thing to be, for sure.
I don't say that in a bad way at all. I love Samuel Jackson.
I'll take that. I'll tell you, it's not a very much of a Samuel Jackson story, but my only association I do have with Samuel Jackson is I did some walla work on Afro Samurai.
Oh, okay.
So some background stuff and with a group of people. And then when we finished doing it, the director asked me if I could hang back and do some efforts for Samuel's character, for his character. And so I did, and then we recorded that. It was just effort, and it was only because he's harder to get him. It has nothing to do. I mean, trust me, he could do his own anything. Yeah. He is so incredibly talented. But he's a busy man, and so I was told that he came back the week after to do some pickup lines and whatever, and they said, hey, we had somebody do the efforts for you, but if you want to do them, by all means. And he was like, let me hear them. And so they played a little bit, and he's like, no, it's cool. That's my one. It's not much of a Samuel Jackson story, but he was like, it's cool. So I was like, all right, sweet.
So so this is something that I heard, and I always forget to ask voice actors this, but I heard voice actors, like, one of the roles or the shows that they say they love to be a part of, but they always like, man, this is going to be taxing, is Dragon Ball Z, because they know that you're going to have to do a whole lot of yelling and everything. Now, luckily, a lot of your characters get to be a little bit low. Like you didn't have to yell that much in a lot of your characters, but
I've yelled plenty. Trust me.
But I've heard that voice actors, they always talk about that, because it's like, look, if you get that role, it's going to be a good role, but it's gonna be taxing on your vocal cords. Is that true? Is that a real thing?
That is a real thing, in the sense that I don't know specifically Dragon Ball Z, but I know what you're talking about with Dragon Ball Z. I know actors who have given up roles because it was just so vocally taxing, and I understand that. Look, we're all in different places, right? And I'll tell you the truth, I love more than anything doing animation and video games. That I get the most satisfaction out of that. Oh, yeah. But if I had a really great promo or commercial campaign that required my voice to be as smooth as possible, and not gritty and raspy, I guarantee you I would pull back on those other things, at least for a while, because those kind of campaigns that pays significantly better, folks, than doing the other stuff. So I get that people are in a position where they're like, look, I'm doing this one anime, I got to scream all the time, and then I'm doing all these commercials, and it's affecting that.
Yeah.
So how important in the scheme of it, my career needs to go this way for now. I can go back to anime later if I love it, or whatever the case is,
Right.
So it happens.
All right, cool. So another thing so oftentimes people have that moment where they feel accomplished, right? Where they're like, okay, you know what? I am within this role, right? So you've been doing this for quite some time. What was the moment that you realized, like, wow, okay, this character or this project that I'm a part of, like, where you felt like your grind started to pay off?
My grind started to pay off. So is that like at a career moment? Like
a career moment.
Like an I've made it kind of a feeling? Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I technically, the fact that, because I used to, wait tables and, all kinds of stuff X amount of years ago to, to pay the bills. And, for years I struggled to get going. So the fact that I do voiceover and nothing else as I shake the table. It's not a quake, folks.
It's all right.
That to me reminds me that I've made it, because there's no real making it. There's always more you can achieve, and I'm always critical of the things that I do. It's just part of who I am. So I never can sit back. I can sit back and go, I'm so cool for about 3 seconds every, when something amazing happens, like you just booked this role, I go, oh, and for like 3 seconds, I'm like, yes, I am so badass. This is great. And then it's gone. And I'm like, oh, now I got to do it. I hope the fans are going to like it. I can't mess this up. It doesn't last for me. That's not, I can't be big headed for more than 3 seconds. And then I'm like, it doesn't suit me. I can't do it. But so I know I've made it in the sense that all I ever wanted to do was be able to make a living doing this. And that has been consistent. But I never feel like I've done enough. I don't think that I ever will. I think I just have to be satisfied with what comes my way, because you never know. It's one of those weird careers. You can't really set like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You can say it, you can have a bucket list, but you may not hit all those. You might go in and say, I know people that are booking commercials left and right, and they're like, man, I really want to do animation. It's that Cry Me a River thing. Like, yeah, I hope you get to do what you want to do. Right. But at the same time, like you're making crazy, like that's the way the job is. So maybe I want to always play the hero, but I'm getting a lot of, this is just hypothetically, but I'm getting a lot of villains. Mm-hmm. I can either go with the flow and embrace that and start to enjoy that, or I'm disappointed in my career, even though I'm working. Right. So, it just is what it is. And you have to relax and breathe, just breathe it in and go, this is cool. I didn't know I was going to be in, this game or that thing, or I didn't know this game was going to blow up like and be the hugest thing in the world. I had no idea, but if I had planned on that, I'm sure it never would have happened. Right. but it happened. But it happened, right? Yeah. So who's your most quotable character? That the fans quote the most. Well, for a long time, it was Torbjorn from Overwatch for a long time, because that game is just huge, and still actually doing incredibly well as we're on the heels of Overwatch 2, which I think is going to like blow the doors off of everything when that happens, which it needs, I think, a breath of fresh air, like everything does. But right now, everybody, it's all about this character Zhongli from a game called Genshin Impact, which is like crazy, like a whole world seems to be playing this game. No, it's crazy. My podcast hosts, they go crazy over that game. My co-host that everyone. So that and I often will always ask that, because people always have that character that at every con, or when they see somebody may see them on the street and they yell out whatever that quote is, right, or stuff like that. So it's always funny to see which one it is that gets the people and everything like that. So all right, they love Zhongli for sure. I'm trying to think of what one of his quotes. I hope today too shall be prosperous. He has all these wise things that he has to say. Yes. And yeah, they go crazy over it. It's funny. I get a lot of like cameos where people want birthday wishes from Zhongli. He's become the main. And it's funny. His second is Hisoka.
Oh yeah. I would imagine in cameo for sure. Like, hey, can you give me a shout out, but make it Hisoka, like make it kind of like a backhand shout out, like they want you to be in full character. They don't want it just to be like, hey, happy birthday. They want you to say something and go a little bit crazy with it.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing how that works. It's such a cool thing. It used to trip me out because people would be like, my comfort character is, Hisoka. And I'd be like, in my head, I'd be like, that's a weird character. That character, because most people watch the show and that character makes them uncomfortable. I mean, that's kind of his role.
Right.
So when people are like, that's my comfort character. And I used to be like, but I totally get it. The more thought I put into it, I mean, really with any show, it's there's something in the voice that people find pleasant. It's a character that is a likable character, whether you want to hang with that character in real life or not.
Right.
It's a likable character. So, I have shows that I could sit back and watch, and like I know all the dialogue, and I put it on not because it's new, but because it feels good. I could put on the Lord of the Rings movies or put on Star Wars. I don't watch Star Wars because I'm gonna see something new in it. I watch Star Wars because I know every sound effect and where it's gonna come in, and it makes my brain happy to hear those sounds and to see those effects and to watch the actors and just like, that's what, you know what I mean? There's cartoons like that from my childhood that I'm just like, oh man, give me that like in Technicolor Spider-Man. And it's not even the theme song. It's it's like that jazzy like music. I can't even do it. That's all throughout it.
It's like it's one little bit to it or something to it, that you connect to, like, oh my God. Cause like, like when you think about like one of my favorite fandoms as a kid was Power Rangers, right? Now, Power Rangers has an amazing theme song, but just that, it brings you so much joy.
Absolutely. It's a weird thing. So anything, whether it's visual or something you hear audibly, it's either way. I mean, it can just bring you so much comfort. So I'm like, you know what? I totally get it, and I'm honored. I'm honored that people find some of my characters to be like very comforting for them, which means when they're stressed out, that's one of the things they go to is people tell me like they think about this character or, you know what I mean? What would they do or how would they feel? And they get confidence from this character. And so to be in any way, a small part of helping someone else's day-to-day life out there that I've never even met, just by doing what I love to do, it's unbelievable that happens. I mean, it makes me, if I think about it too hard, I could get emotional. Seriously, because people get emotional with me. And if I think about it, and I think about people that I meet at cons who sometimes are literally crying and telling me about how much these characters have helped them in whether it's a game or whatever. Because listen, I'll put it this way. You and I probably we understand it in the level of like music. Yeah. So you might say this album, you have no idea. I was so angry, and this Public Enemy album like got me through this summer. Like I that whole summer, man, I don't know what I would have joined a gang, or I would have done this, or I would have something, but because of this album, I didn't. And and that makes sense. But you know what? I mean, that album is X amount of songs long. Like people watch an anime series that's like 50 episodes, 500 episodes, or they play a video game that's like 80 hours they put into this video game, 120 hours into this game. So how can that not affect them emotionally? They're so tied into this plot and these characters. It's the same thing. That game gets people through. And it seems strange to me because the games I grew up on when I was that impressionable were more simple. They were more simplified. Definitely. So I didn't have that same experience with but I loved the game. But I didn't emotionally connect the same way. Yeah. And now games are like movies, the effects are just as good. The graphics are just as good. The acting is just as good. It's, why not? Like you cry at your movie, you cry playing your game, you cry watching your anime series, and you connect to it.
Listen here, there's been moments in anime that's like, man, who was chopping onions? Because like Naruto was like, I tell people this all the time. Dragon Ball Z is like my top favorite anime. Now I know that storyline is not the best storyline, but it's my favorite. But Naruto, it's the most emotionally tied. Like there's so many deaths that happen in there. Like, you watch so much anime and you'll see people die all the time. But like, you know, say like when Pervy Sensei died in there, spoiler alert, of course, but when he died, when Neji died, like when the village finally accepted Naruto, it's like, man, why? Like, why is there so much dust in this room? Because I don't know what. Like,
you know, if you are emotionally invested in something, that's all that it takes. You just got to be emotionally invested. And if you are, you know, it'll pay off emotionally for you. It doesn't matter if it's anime or a video game or an album or, you know, whatever, you know, that's just the way that way. Naruto was a good one. That was one of the first series I worked on that I knew what the series was. So I was doing a lot of anime that was either brand new, meaning it hadn't aired yet in America. So I didn't know what it was, or, you know, just something I never heard of in the beginning.
Right.
That was the first one. I'm like, oh, I know what this show is. I didn't watch it myself, but I knew what it was because it was so popular.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know a ton of people who love this show. Like, I'm going to do something like people are going to already be watching. I don't have to go, hey, you got to watch this show. Check it out. I'm going to be on it. They're going to watch it anyway. And I can go, that's me. Because I'm young and I'm so excited, you know, like, that's me. Gara of the desert, you wield sand, but your powers are limited to the amount that fits in that gourd of yours. Tomorrow, man. That was great.
All right, so 2 segments that we do before I get you out of here. So the first one, top 5, I like to do. So this is going to be hard for you because of how much you like Prince. I need you to put your top 5 Prince albums in order.
Yo, in order? I don't know if I can do in order. Let me see. Hold on.
If you can't do it in order, then just do them.
I got them. Well, let's go. I'll try to do them in order, but it's hard to do it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Sign of the Times, number 1.
Okay.
Sign of the Times. Just too many. You know, that's just too many good cuts. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Purple Rain second because I know sometimes fans have a tendency to sleep on Purple Rain because that's the obvious choice. You know what I mean? But listen to that album and really listen to it again and tell me that it's not the obvious choice for a damn good reason. There's a damn good reason. Now you got to go 1999. I'm sorry. That was just before Purple Rain. It was in some ways edgier than Purple Rain, in some ways not, but in some ways it definitely was. So there's so many great cuts, and that just gave birth to that sound. That's where he kind of really defined his sound. Oh man, so good. Let's see. This is where it gets a little harder here, because there's a couple. And I like albums for lots of different reasons. I'm going to put, just for one of my faves, I'm going to put The Gold Experience. Okay. Because this was a later album. The Gold Experience. He went through a whole period. Listen, I love a lot of his music, but he went through a whole period where, I mean, in the beginning, his albums were like every cut is like gold. Like, oh my God, so good, so good. And then it, stretched out and he expanded as an artist, which I'm okay with. And I stretched with him. But you got to albums that weren't like every cut is amazing, but you'd have 4 or 5 like unbelievable cuts, well worth getting the album. And then, oh, that's cool. Gold Experience was one of those that, like, after you went through a spell of like, not everything, but a lot of the album. Yeah. That one was like, oh, what? Where? Thank you for coming back. Like, oh my God, like everything. Ship back. But I like the journey. Now to do a last one, the last one's debatable. It could be a few because, you got like Dirty Mind is so good. Some of his earlier stuff. And Controversy. I can't sleep on Controversy. So those I could easily do, but I'm going to go with Love Sexy. I'm going to go with Love Sexy. Now, this is the album, was it 1988, I think, where he's like naked on the cover, which it's funny to say that because there's a few where he's in his underwear, but this is the one he's like naked.
He's like naked.
And people were like, I don't want to buy that. And some stores I remember had it like the way they used to hide the Playboy magazines, they'd have it blocked off. You don't see anything. But they still were like, we can't have this just out. It's Prince. We want people to find it, but we don't, we're going to cover it up a little bit. We're better than that here at Licorice Pizza or wherever at the warehouse. So I'm going to go with that because that was a really nice departure. And that's the one that like Alphabet Streets on that and Glam Slam, some really great cuts. There's some amazing ballads on that. When Two Are in Love, there's a lot of good stuff. Okay. So I'm going to do those for my top 5. And if you guys don't know that, and also if you're not whether you know Prince well or not, I'll give you a bonus of my favorite song of all time. It's from Sign of the Times. It's a ballad called Adore. And it's an amazing, amazing ballad. If you have not heard this song by Prince, and it was a hit, you know, on black radio, it was a hit. I mean, if you're listening to white radio, you've probably never heard it, but but I suggest you listen to that when you have time and you can really listen to it, because it's an amazing ballad, just insane. Okay, that's my 5.
That was a good one. All right, so just another top 5 real quick. Now, this one doesn't have to be in order. It'll be a little bit easier, but you being an anime head, what's 5 animes that you love? It doesn't have to be top 5, but it can be just 5 animes that you like.
Okay, that I like. I like that, because that can just be things that I came up and influenced me in some way. I'm probably gonna go old school on a lot of them. I will say one of my faves is Death Note, which is not super old school. I love Death Note.
Death Note.
I'm gonna do one of mine. I will say HunterxHunter, because I thought that series kind of took me by surprise with how good it was. You know, when I really watched, I was like, damn, I'm really into this. This is great. And then I want to go old school a little bit. I think I watched anime when I was really young. I didn't know what it was, but in high school, an anime came out, which I don't know how beloved it is by the community, because it was kind of pieced together in a weird way. But I used to rush home every day to see Robotech. Robotech, to me, like, it was on like the same era that like Transformers was on in the 80s.
Was it like a Gundam type anime?
It was these
ferrets.
They transformed.
Yeah.
Yes, they transformed. They were like fighter planes. Yeah. Like I love Transformers, but I'm not bashing Transformers, but I'm gonna bash Transformers a little bit here. So the Transformers, we love them. We grew up on them. They're great. You know, the toys, they either usually they look awesome as a car, like it's a car, and then you go, I'm a robot, and they're like this, and you know what I mean? So it's not ideal, but it's cool because we have imagination and we get it. Yeah. And you can animate it and make it really cool, but if you play with the real thing, you turn that gun into one of them looks perfect, and then the other one's like, it's a decent robot, right? We got to use our imagination. This one, like when they make the toys, the same way they animate them, they're the same. So these planes have 3 modes and they're perfect. So I loved that about them. I loved the toys. And I love that on Transformers and G.I. Joe, whenever a helicopter got shot down, like you always saw parachutes and stuff. Yeah. I'm watching Robotech and they're like, we're coming in and they're attacking us right now. Look out, look out. And the helicopter blows up and you see the flames and you see the bodies turning and charring inside as they're disintegrating. Oh. And I'm like,
so it was like it was like this is the real.
I'm sold. Oh yeah. And that's the difference. You know, a lot of anime was like, and this is not a violent anime. It's not at all. But they were still going to show that. It's small, but you can see it because everywhere else there's parachutes. Yeah. So I and there was a lot of drama to it, and people died and things that never happened on Transformers and G.I. Joe. So I was drawn to that. Speed Racer, huge for me as a kid. Huge, I loved it. And I also really loved Battle of the Planets when I was little, like G-Force Battle of the Planets. I was like, I don't know how that holds up. This is when I was a kid, but I mean, I loved that. I used to watch Marine Boy and Kimba the White Lion. And so there's all kinds of stuff. I like new stuff. I like old stuff, you know.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope. All right. So the last segment was real quick. It'll be recommendations we do. This could be anything that you're watching, you're reading, you're listening to, but something that you think that our viewers and listeners should check out.
Well, in addition to listening to Adore by Prince, which is your homework, everybody, unless you know it. Well, if you know it, you're going to be like, I like that homework and I'm going to listen to it anyway.
Right,
so,
right.
You will have no problem if you know the track. I promise you. What do I recommend? What am I doing right now? I'm watching, there's a popular series. I started watching, my wife got me into Ted Lasso, which it's on Apple TV. It is an amazing series. It's about soccer. It's about football. Yeah. And it's a comedy / drama. And I never would have thought I would have been super into it, but oh my God, the characters in the show are just, I'm so excited every time there's a new episode. I've teared up a few times. It's just a great show. I don't know how much it factors into geekdom or hip hop. Right. Probably very little, but I've been watching that. And of course I'm a big Marvel head. So I just started watching the What If series, which is the new, and I didn't think I thought I was going to like it, but I'm kind of loving it. So I've seen the first two.
Last episode, the Black Panther one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so.
It was good. It was so. I was surprised because I thought the first one was so great, and then I was like, I don't know, are they all going to be as good as the first one? Like, I don't know. And then when it started, and we got the little T'Challa reveal, I was like, okay. And then about 5 more minutes into it, I was like, my tongue was hanging out like a dog. I was like, give me more of this. Like, this is great. It surpassed the first one. I was like, no way. They totally surpassed the first. That's so amazing. How did they do that?
Right. It's like, that's the thing with Marvel. Because like, even with their shows, I know I got to get you out of here, but with their shows, going into this season of their shows, I had no interest in WandaVision. Then when I watched it, I was captured. Then I was like, all right, this is good, but I'm not going to probably like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then I was captured, and I was like, all right, okay, Loki, I'm a little bit excited. And that exceeded, I was like, okay, Marvel got me. Listen here. All right, I'm never going to doubt Marvel again. I'm sorry.
It's amazing. They're so good. I mean, you're right, because WandaVision, like I watched, and after like episode 3, I was like, I'm enjoying this, but it better go somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I need some explaining.
Yeah.
And of course, they listened, and it started to explain itself and unravel. And I went, oh my God. I went, genius, absolutely. And good on them, because that was that would be a tough sell if it wasn't Marvel and how hot they are to make that show.
Yeah.
Because it's a very different show, and it takes a while before it gets to anything remotely like the Avengers movies. You know what I mean? That probably most of the people watching are like, I'm looking for an Avengers movie. And you give me this sitcom? Like, what? You know what I mean?
All right. So first off, before we get your sign out, I just want to say congratulations on season 2 of Way of the House Husband. That was an anime that I didn't expect that I was going to like, and then I was like, I like this anime a lot. It was cool. It was different. So when I saw that they got the season 2 this morning, I think I saw it on Looper when they announced it. I was like, I got to make sure that I give them a congratulations on that.
Nice, cool. Very nice. Yeah, that's super new, so I can neither confirm nor deny anything, but I'll take your congratulations all the same.
Okay. So where can my people find you, man?
You can find me in social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm at SilverTalkie, Silver Talkie. I'm sure you can type in my name too and find me there. On Instagram, I'm just Keith Silverstein, plain and simple. I recently got on TikTok. It's scary though. TikTok's a little scary. I'm gonna say that. I like it, but it's edgier. Can I just say it's edgier? Is that fair to say?
I've been telling people that TikTok is the most addictive social media that I've ever seen.
That's true.
I'll be on it. I'm like, I started posting clips of my interviews on it, right? So I'm like, let me check, see how people are interacting with it. And here's why. And I figured out why TikTok is. So with Instagram, if you go to the Explore page, you have to click the Explore page, then you have to click each square to kind of get into it. Now you can scroll up, but there's a stop. With TikTok, the way that their interface is, it literally doesn't stop. So you can just be scrolling. So you're like, well, let me just check out what's going on. And the next thing you know, an hour passed. You're like, what am I doing? I just been watching stuff on TikTok. And I was like, all right, it's so addictive. It blows my mind.
And it feeds, well, I can only speak to my experience of it, but it kind of feeds the lowest common denominator of myself.
Yeah.
Of me. So this is not me talking about other people, because I mean it goes off your algorithms and what you stop on and what you look at, and you can say like, I don't want to see any of this anymore, but like I don't watch anything of any value. I swear to God, I go on like I'm gonna check to post something, or I just want to see what comments, and then it starts immediately, and you're like, I'll get past that ad. Oh, what's that? Oh, somebody popping a pimple. Oh, I gotta see this. What? Oh, look at that booty. That's crazy. Oh, another booty. Another booty. Oh, somebody's spinning on their head. Oh, and that guy's an amazing beatboxer. Look at that. And it's all just like, all of it makes me want to watch it. But then I'm like you said, like 30 minutes has passed and I'm like, oh my God, like all I watched was some beatboxing, 5 pimples get popped and 17 booties shaken. Like I got stuff to do. Why did I do that? So bad. And the other ones don't do that. I never do that on Twitter, on Instagram. Like I get in there, I do what I want. I see what my friends like. I will say this, because I don't know a ton of, I'm new on TikTok and I don't have the same list of friends, like people I actually know. Let me put it that way. I don't have as much of like my friends' things coming up.
Okay.
So it's a lot of what they choose. Like here's somebody on a water slide. Here's, you know, a bear attacking somebody. Like, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? So it's very like, I don't know what's coming next and spontaneous. And although every 2 or 3, you're bound to see some booty, apparently. That's just the way that's the way that works. But anyway, on TikTok, I'm Keith Silverstein VA on that. So you can find me on there too. I'm still learning the ropes, and you know, I'll post something I know people want to see, and then I'll put a video of me playing with my kids because I'm just like, I don't know, let's just see. I'm gonna put stuff out there, and I don't want everything to be, you know,
right.
I don't know. I'd rather people don't have a specific expectation on me. Like, it's got to be some Hisoka stuff, man. You got to give me more Hisoka. I don't want to be the Hisoka channel or the Overwatch channel. So you get a little bit of everything.
All right. Well, all right, man. This has been 1-on-1 with Deuces. I've been your boy Deuces. It's been amazing. Keith Silverstein, and we are out. Peace.